Well, good evening, everybody. This is Roberto Parker with Innovative Sports Training. I want to welcome you to another edition of Your Life, Your Health. Tonight, we are very privileged to have Dr. Evan Mladenoff of the Mladenoff Clinic in Overland Park, Kansas. And he's going to be discussing some very pertinent issues relative to our health and wellness, the estrogen, testosterone, progesterone balance, which relates a lot to breast cancer and prostate cancer and some other health and wellness topics as well. Now, before we get started, of course, I need to promote my own business here a little bit. We're going to have some future webinars next month. I don't know who will be speaking yet. I might be doing it myself, but we'll do this on a monthly basis. And of course, Innovative Sports Training offers private training sessions, classes, nutritional consultations, sports performance training, and of course, hormonal and biomechanical evaluations, which we'll talk a lot about tonight, I'm sure, with Dr. E here. And without further ado, I'm going to just introduce him now, and I'm going to hand the screen over to Dr. E. So, Evan, you can start kind of introing yourself here a little bit. Just talk a little bit about what your background is and, you know, what you've been working on, any books, any websites you have out there. So.
Okay, well, thanks for having me, Roberto. This is pretty cool. I've never done this before, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit, even though I am a technology freak. I've been around the corner a few times. I graduated from chiropractic college in 1978. I have an undergrad degree in physiology and biochemistry. Then I went on to get specialties in acupuncture and in applied kinesiology. And in 1978-79, for 2 years, I went to the World Canoeing Championships as a Canadian team doctor. And then in 1984, I moved to the States and started seeing patients from other doctors because I was lecturing all around the country. And it was pretty great. And then started having a family, and so I said, okay, I think I better stay home so they can know who their dad is. And then, you know, one of the things that helps your business, Roberto, is when you've got a satisfied customer, they're going to tell other people about you. And that's kind of how our relationship has grown over the years. And so I had a patient said, can you take care of a friend of mine who's got a knee problem? I said, yeah, I'd be happy to have a look at him. And it was a Chiefs player. And so that was before the Carl Peterson era, so a long, long time ago. And so that is kind of how I got started with the Chiefs. And then in 1993, when the Chiefs went to the AFC Championship game in Buffalo, that's I think were you with the team back then?
I wasn't at that. I came in 95. No,
okay,
90, I was there 97.
Okay, so I was there a little bit before you. So that's when the Chiefs first hired me, and then so I was at every game, home, away, and actually in Tokyo, which was pretty cool one year. And then when Coach Vermeil left, I left, and so I had the privilege of meeting a lot of people, learning a lot of new things, trying to introduce some things to players and management and ownership, and some worked. Some of them were interested, some were not, and you know, it's a continuum. And you know, my key is, okay, athletes abuse themselves, and in order to get better, they abuse themselves more. The more you abuse yourself, the better you become. And so one of my premises is that, okay, an athlete will only get better if he recovers from the abuse he gave himself yesterday. So if you don't recover properly from yesterday's abuse, you can't abuse yourself today. Otherwise, your body starts to break down, and it breaks down very systematically, and things go wrong. And if you continue to train as you're breaking down and you're not recovering, so I got a couple of slides I want to share with this continuum that I've been dealing with probably for 30 years now, of piecing the recovery models. How do athletes recover so they can abuse themselves more? So that's my elevator story of kind of my journey. I've written a couple of books. My latest book is called The 30-Day Stress Makeover. We'll talk a little bit about how stress influences hormones tonight. That might be something great for a later topic, especially kind of before Christmas.
Right.
You know, when stress is really high, you know, all the politics stuff is going to be over, whatever the new president is going to do. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I got to tell you a quick story. This would be in 2012. I got asked to do a lecture in Washington, D.C. And so we landed. Now, if you think commercials are bad here, it was like 24/7 on every major station. It's like I couldn't get out of Washington, D.C. fast enough. I don't know how those people live there. It was just like unbelievable, spewing hatred commercials. It's like,
Yeah.
it was like unbelievable. So, okay, so are we ready over here?
Ready, man.
Okay, so I should be able to, if I can get my mouse to work. There we go. Okay, so do you see a little Chinese?
Yep. See it.
Okay, so that's part of our clinic logo. All right, there we go. So I got to treat people on the sidelines, and that was pretty fun. So this was a game that in San Diego, actually, where I was treating Morton Anderson. And then there's a nice picture they had with Vermeil. But here's the big thing. What are you curious about? So what's your view of reality? And mine, as we just talked about, is recovery. So what can an athlete do to recover? And you see, this is Greg LeMond, and he's drinking a Coke, and he's having a who knows what kind of sandwich. And that was part of his demise when he developed blood sugar problems. So here's part of that matrix I've been working on. There's 3 levels of performance recovery. So here's the deal. If you recover quickly, you can increase your workload. If you recover slowly, you should decrease your workload. The level 2 is if you recover correctly, you will thrive. If you recover poorly, you will survive. And then the 3rd level is if you completely recover, then you can transcend the game and become bigger than the game or bigger than life, as we've seen in a lot of performances. If you only partially recover, then you descend in the game, and you can typically see this, in the 4th period of a football game, or in the 2nd half of a college basketball game, or those kind of things, where you see key players all of a sudden they get off and they don't perform very well, and yet other players like just play lights out. So those are some of the things that I've been curious about over the years. So let's just worry about level 1. So in level 1, I've got 9 boxes that I built here. And if you just hang in there with me, you see the upper 2 boxes. One is inflammation and one is cortisol. And these have directly tied to your hormonal function of your body. And so your hormones literally get put through unbelievable toll in working out, in competing, and in day-to-day hand-to-hand combat going to work. And if you don't recover those 2 things, then a bunch of stuff will happen, and we're going to go over some of that stuff. So I apologize. I'm going to just flip through these here. Okay. So what's your premise? Most people believe that if they have no symptoms, they're healthy. Well, if you have no symptoms, then you're just symptom-free. You're not really healthy. And so if you are swimming in the ocean and you see a shark fin, what would you do, Roberto?
Well, I imagine your adrenaline levels would get really high.
That would really get high. So then you're going to freak out or do whatever you do. But what happens when the shark fin goes away? Do you feel better now that it just went away?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, really good. Okay, so probably what's happening is the sharks are sending sonar to their buddies saying, okay, feeding frenzy, and you're the fresh meat of this feeding frenzy. But, there's no shark fin on the surface of the ocean. And so here's the problem, is that health is not an event. Okay, so Roberto, I want to go to the London Olympics. Okay, tell me what workout I can do tonight so I'll make it.
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
Yeah, he's in shock because I'm asking him, I want to do one workout to get to the Tokyo Olympics and do nothing else. That's not going to happen, is it?
No, no way.
No. So your health is the same way. A surgery, no matter how important it is, takes out part of your body or puts stuff back together not the way it was made. Taking a pill for every ill is not going to get you better. It's like, we wouldn't do that for our finances. You wouldn't buy a lottery ticket. Well, some people buy a lottery ticket every week in hopes that that's going to get them out of financial, concerns or financial misery. It's like, okay, that's not going to work. You'd be better off, flipping burgers, making $7 an hour. You'd have a bigger impact on your finances than trying to win the lottery. So health is not an event. It's something they have to work at every day. And so let's just look at a couple of quick stats. 69% of Americans say that their stress has increased this past year, and that's not even election season. 20% of 20% of Americans consider themselves extremely stressed. Now, here's the biggie. What's the #1 treatment for stress? Well, it's drugs, whether it's pain, depression, anxiety, irritable bowel syndrome, insomnia, heart disease, headaches, hypercholesterol problems, or hormonal problems. Throw drugs at them. And I'm going to steal something from Roberto in just a minute here. In 1994, 94, the front cover of Time magazine was Inflammation, the Secret Killer. And so what does inflammation do? Well, it'll give you arthritis, it'll give you diabetes, it'll give you congestive heart failure and heart problems. It'll give you Alzheimer's disease. It'll give you cancer. It'll give you pulmonary disease. It'll give you neurological diseases. It'll give you autoimmune disorders. Okay, so here's the problem. The link between inflammation and heart disease has been known since the 1900s. So how come people don't know about this? Yeah, wow is right. It's like you've been lied to for a very, very long time. So if your premise is, and I'm going to steal from Roberto, you probably heard Roberto say you can't supplement your way back to health. Well, I'm going to add a caveat to that is you can't drug yourself back to health either. It doesn't matter how many drugs you take, it's not going to make you healthy. It might remove some problems in your body, but it's not going to make you healthy. It's just going to deal with symptoms. Okay? So you can't drug yourself to death. Sorry, you can drug yourself to death. You can't drug yourself to health. So let's see how these do. So the biggest study done on women's hormone replacement therapy is called the Women's HRT Initiative. This was done at the University of Iowa. 16,000 women, largest study ever done. They were given estrogen and progestin, and the study was terminated partway through before it finished. So why did they stop the study? Well, there was an increased risk of breast cancer because they were given the hormone replacement therapy. There was an increased stroke. There was increased deep vein thrombosis. There was increased pulmonary embolisms. They increased the death rate by 15% even after the drug was stopped. So let me get this straight. You take hormone replacement therapy for 6 months, you stop it, and you still have a 15% increased chance of having a stroke. How's that working for you?
Exactly.
Okay, so women are not alone. So now we have this low T thing going on, and you'll boost your testosterone. You see the little slide I've got up here, and it's like, okay, well, how come every time a man is given a testosterone drug, whether it's oral, injection, a patch, that they're always given usually this drug, anastrozole tablets, okay? It is an estrogen blocking drug that is ultra expensive. So you take testosterone, but you have to take a drug that blocks estrogen. So what they're saying is, if I give you this testosterone, your body's going to make more estrogen, and yes, you will get man boobs, it'll shrink your testicles, and you start having hormonal freaking out sessions like ladies do with menstrual problems. And I've got a small population of these male patients, and it's like I tell them, okay, how's the testosterone working for you? Well, I feel really good. Well, what about when you freak out? And what about that your testicles are shrinking? And what about that your blood pressure is going up? And what about you pay more money for the drug to counteract the side effects for the testosterone? It's like, doc, tell me what I got to do. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of guys, specifically if we have enough time later tonight. So here's the bottom line is like, okay, so what's your premise? So here's my premise. And it goes back to the Cartesian Theory of healthcare. We're going to do a brief history lesson. Rene Descartes in the 1600s said, okay, the mind should be separated from the body. They are not one part. We're going to treat them separately. And he began that that long ago. So that was the birth of psychology and then the birth of biology to take care of the physical body and the mental body, or a dualism versus a monoism. But here's the bottom line. Fast forward a couple of millennium, and this was a great book that was written called Selling Sickness by two Australian guys, and here's what they said. If we can, it was developed by the CEO and chairman of the board of Merck Drugs. He said, you know what, this has been a banner year, but you know what, there's more healthy people that don't take drugs than there are sick people. We could make a whole lot more money if we could figure out how to sell drugs to healthy people. And here's what they did. Cholesterol, you ever heard of cholesterol drugs? Lipitor, the #1 selling drug.
Oh yeah.
And then there's the great cholesterol myth. That would be a great topic, Roberto, is the great cholesterol myth. So here's what the Selling Sickness figured out. Big Pharma has boiled Cartesian healthcare down to, if we can do one test, come up with one diagnosis, we can give them one treatment, and we'll hire a celebrity pimp to advertise like hell, and then we can make a fortune. So see if any of this makes sense to you. So what celebrities are pimping drugs? Well, there's Larry the Cable Guy. So you can eat all the bad foods, right? Wait a minute. The bad foods are the reason why you got the stomach problems. So why are you going to take the drug to eat more of the foods that caused the problem in the first? Is this insane, or am I missing something here?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, so now if you have heart problems, well, okay, pick your sport. We can have any of these guys to pimp blood thinners. And oh, by the way, blood thinners cause deep bleeding ulcers in your stomach and in your intestinal tract, and you can bleed internally and die before they know what happens to you. Well, what about the big man? Okay, well, he's all about pain, so we can give you stuff for pain. And then, okay, Viagra. This is the big one right here. Prescription Viagra. Okay, so they give you commercials like this which have subliminal. That's not a subliminal message, I don't think, but subliminal messages, right? So here's the thing that you don't notice about the Viagra commercial is that, okay, it's like the old guys are the problems, and so have a look at that graph. That's from graphjam.com. And then, oh, ladies, oops, sorry, I'm going too fast here. Ladies, don't feel left out. Now there's female Viagra, right? So you ladies won't feel left out. So I'm going to read you this. So what happens is you get more money spent on boob jobs and Viagra than on Alzheimer's, and by 2040, the elderly will have pricky tits, stiff so-and-so, and no idea of what's going on.
It's pretty good.
So it's like, well, that's my view of reality and my premise. So have you had enough Viagra commercials? Now there's going to be Viagra for pets. And it's like, are you serious? And it's like, obviously it works because they keep doing it and people keep buying the stuff, and it's like, okay, this is not for me. So now what's the most interesting man in the world going to do is like, okay, now he's going to go to Viagra because they don't want him selling Dos Equis anymore, and like, just watch it, he's going to be doing Viagra commercials now, just like, who was the guy that did the telephone commercial, Can You Hear Me Now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Now, well, now he's doing telephone TV commercials for the other telephone company. He says, well, how's that working now? It's like, just the celebrity pimp doing something else. So let's get back to our topic now that you kind of know where I'm coming from, and that is, okay, what symptoms develop when your hormones get messed up? And so here's a cartoon I like using for menopause for ladies. And if you can't see the captions, it's the itchy, bitchy, sweaty, bloaty, sleepy, forgetful, and psycho. And you could probably say that about guys too, with low testosterone and hormone problems too. It's like we get seemingly bizarre, random symptoms, and I'm going to explain why in just a minute. All right, so here's some of the signs of low testosterone. You get mood, you get emotional changes, you get physical changes, okay, you get chemical changes, and then all of those things create other changes like decreased bone mass. You lose hair, you'll have fatigue, loss of energy, you lose muscle mass, all the things that I'm sure everybody's familiar with it and heard of because of being blitzed by TV commercials. Okay, so again, what's my premise? Well, the hormone flow, or the Newtonian theory, is like this little graphic I've got in there. Hormone A is converted into hormone B, and that's converted into hormone C, and then hormone D and hormone E. Well, the problem is if you do a blood test for C, and C is low, then the solution is just give them C, right? It makes sense using this particular model. Well, the problem is that's not how the body works. This is more of a quantum or holistic view of the body, and there's an interrelationship of all the hormones of the body. And actually this is identical to traditional Chinese medicine of what's called the law of the 5 elements, if you've ever heard of that. Now what's even more interesting, if you've heard of Kevin Bacon and the 6th degree, where Kevin's deal was, okay, everybody is related to somebody. He says, you know somebody that's related to the Queen of England right now that's 6 steps away, or you know somebody that's 6 steps away from Barack Obama, or pick anybody you want in the world. You are 6 steps away from knowing this person. Well, there's a neurophysiologist who did a study at Stanford University where he looked at every hormone of the body using that principle, and he has literally mapped every hormone of the body and has shown that every hormone of the body is less than 6 steps away of a chemical relationship to every other hormone in your body. So go back to that straight line Newtonian theory. It's like, okay, so look at our little logo here. If you do a blood test for C only, for low testosterone, okay, or low progesterone in females, or low thyroid stimulating hormone for thyroid patients, and it's low, if you just give that one drug, what's going to happen to this whole balance quantum model of the body? And the answer is other stuff's going to get messed up. Okay. All right. So now this is the cool thing. I found this. This is a model taken from a medical doctor called Harold Harrower in a book that he wrote in 1936 called The Endocrine Story. And it's like, this guy knew in 1936, and yet if you ask most medical doctors, most primary care doctors, most chiropractors to create what I call the hormone symphony, they couldn't draw this diagram of the interrelationships of all the glands and hormones. It's not a Cartesian theory, one line, one test, one solution situation. So this has been around for a long time, whether you use the traditional Chinese model or going back to Harold Harrower in 1936, it's been around a long time, but it's been conveniently swept under the rug for medical, political, and economic reasons. Okay, so here's my premise is that, okay, the body is chemical, mental, and structural, and all three of those things are going to be involved in anything and everything you do. Now, the question is which one is the primary one. Okay, so now let's look at this teeter-totter. Now, I got this teeter-totter from a book called Life Without Bread by a German medical doctor named Wolfgang Lutz. I love saying his name. So when we look at this metabolic teeter-totter, there's two sides to the teeter-totter. So on your viewing left, you see the catabolic hormones. Those are hormones that break down stuff into smaller pieces. And the two, now this is not every hormone of the body. These are the biggies, okay? Right. The two hormones on the left side are cortisol, the stress hormones, and the thyroid hormones. When we go to the other side, this is the anabolic side, so the hormones on this side will take the smaller pieces that those hormones on the left side have broken down and make new tissue. So anabolic hormones make new tissue. So over there you see we've got insulin, we got vitamin D3, we got growth hormone, and we got reproductive or sex hormone. Okay? So we should have a balance in between the catabolic hormones and the anabolic hormones, excuse me, in this teeter-totter. Oh, by the way, you might see periodically, like it says page 75.
Right, I see that.
Okay, so part of this is from a presentation I do for my patients, and so that's like page 75 in that 30-day stress makeover book where they can follow along with this. So well, I'll be happy to share some information about the book later. So that's what those page references refer to. Okay, so let's go back to our teeter-totter. So now we have a balanced teeter-totter. So now what happens if stress is high? So now your teeter-totter is going to get out of balance. And we're going to talk about this kind of at the end of my presentation, but how's your body going to fix this? And the answer is our brain is pretty dumb and stupid. It's going to do the easiest thing to fix it. So I like using the analogy, when it rains, where does the water go? Well, it goes from the highest area to the lowest area, and it goes where there's the least amount of resistance. So it's going to flow as quickly as possible, and it literally moves stuff out of the way. So the brain says, okay, how can I fix the excess stress hormone? Well, if Roberto and I were on a teeter-totter, okay, we're about the same size, but Roberto's a heck of a lot stronger than me. It's like, okay, so let's just say Roberto's the stress size. How can I balance the teeter-totter? Well, I can try to add more weight. So if I stand up in the teeter-totter, I could change my leverage. If I move closer to the middle, I could change the leverage. But you could add something to the right side of the teeter-totter to balance it. And that would kind of get it balanced. But does that get rid of the high stress hormone? No, it doesn't. Or you could take a little bit of weight, take something off of the left side of the teeter-totter, so you could suppress thyroid function. Okay, and so that's one of a stress solution. Your brain will say, oh, okay, too much hormones on that side, so I'm going to stop the thyroid from working. And so if a patient has thyroid problems, so the thyroid, this is real easy. You don't need to write this down, but when you have most commonly low thyroid, they call it the 5 Fs: female, fatigued, fat, fertile, and 40. And that's the most common. That's the most common person who has thyroid problems. Well, they'll do a TSH test. They'll do 2 blood tests, right, instead of 1, because if they do 2 blood tests, then they can give 2 drugs instead of 1, but they won't check stress hormones. They won't do anything to see what's happening metabolically in the rest of the body. Okay, so that's a simple solution there. So what happens if the brain says, I can put some more stuff on the other side, well, what would be the easiest way to do that? Well, it would tell your brain, crave sweets, eat sweets, make insulin, balance the teeter-totter. So how many people that are online today, have cravings for sweets? A lot of people do. A lot of people do. And you know what? When we talk about the female hormonal system, okay, females could balance probably 60 to 75% of their hormonal problems just by decreasing carbohydrate intake and going towards a more paleo-style diet. But you know what? There isn't a medical doctor in the world who says that. What do? They give them hormone replacement drugs in hope that they'll have a stroke faster and that they'll have heart disease faster. But they don't tell them that. Okay, so why are we doing this? Stress is high, so your brain says, okay, let's try to fix this. So it can say, let's put some stuff on the other side of the teeter-totter. So it's going to make you crave sweets. You eat more sweets. Now you make insulin. Okay, so now you have two problems. You have too much stress hormones, and your body is spewing insulin too much. Okay, so now here's something that I want everybody, if you only can take home one thing from tonight, and that is every hormone decreases as we age except for two, and the two that increase as we age are stress hormones and insulin. And I call those the two death hormones, because what happens when you can't make cortisol anymore? You die. What happens when you can't make insulin anymore? You die, right? And then taking insulin injectables just makes it go a little bit longer, but it really screws up your metabolism. So those two hormones increase as we age, and they accelerate the aging and the death process. So it's like, okay, you need to do stuff to control those two areas. Okay? And they're not hard. They're not hard. Okay, so something else you could do is you could increase the sex hormones, reproductive hormones on the viewing right side of the screen. And so this could be a theoretical model of, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Pornography and sex perverts and child molestation. Why these people are out of control and they're addicted to sex is because they have high stress hormones and their brain is trying to balance the teeter-totter. And so it's making more testosterone. It's making more reproductive hormones, right? So let's not look at the whole metabolic teeter-totter. Let's just look at the one test, one solution, one diagnosis, one solution, one drug approach. Is it starting to make sense of why you can get so screwed up? Right. So what happens is eventually you can burn out your stress system, and now the teeter-totter gets way down on the other side. So how's your body going to adapt to this adaptation? And the answer is, well, it can make your thyroid work more, but that's really, really hard to do, or it's going to start taking more stuff off the other side of the teeter-totter. So then what's going to happen is your whole entire hormonal system is going to go crash and burn. And these are the people. I know you know these kind of people. You will see people. They don't look well. They have fibromyalgia. They have rheumatoid arthritis. They have every known disease to man. They're taking a bucket full of drugs, and it's like you can tell that these people just don't look well. They don't live well. They don't think well. They don't act well, and it's like really sad. It's totally sad, and it's totally preventable. Okay, so you don't want to ever end to this point, in your life. Okay, so what's the key? Sorry, go ahead, Roberto.
Yeah, I have a question. I've done some presentations on cortisol and how it affects the body. Cortisol is the main stress hormone, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it is a catabolic hormone. Now, as you age, did you say that cortisol will go up?
Yes, as you age and stress continues, cortisol continues to go up. So here is the yin and yang of the adrenal glands. Your cortisol levels can keep being pumped out, but your gland will deteriorate at the same time. So those doctors that try to do stuff to repair the gland but don't address cortisol the patient will start feeling better. Usually it's energy and brain fog, and they can't concentrate, or reproductive system problems. So when they try to repair the gland starts working better, they start feeling better, but they also fuel their ability to make more cortisol. So they make more cortisol, so then they start going back downhill again. So they get a temporary bump, they start feeling better for a month, 6 weeks, 3 months, and then they start deteriorating again because all they've done is help their body make more cortisol instead of
Okay.
addressing
Okay.
why is
Now,
that high.
when the adrenal gland becomes fatigued, your body's still going to make some cortisol, all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Because I was writing some notes down here as you're talking, because you can still have adrenal fatigue and still have what, relatively moderate amounts of cortisol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
That's the point I wanted to ask. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and that's pretty crucial. So you know, there's lots of ways to test the stress system, and I'm sure you've gone over these with people.
Right.
So one of the things that my book has tried to do is say, okay, let's take a station break here. It's like, okay, I don't care what your politics are, Roberto. I don't care what your listeners' politics are. I don't care who the next president is. Nobody's going to fix the healthcare mess we're in right now.
Right.
And so what that boils down to is, you know, if your premise is, I want the best healthcare somebody else's money will buy, you're going to be in trouble. So you must start taking care of yourself now. You must start taking care of your family now, because nobody's going to help you. You have to surround yourself with good people. You have to surround yourself with people that, like Roberto. And it's like, if you want an exercise program, like Roberto is the guy to go to, you know. And now he's expanded his business to do some hormonal stuff that, you know, we've done for a long time, and we won't have time to tell you how we've progressed in some other things, but it's like he has a tremendous service that will help you down this path. And it's like, okay, you got to start taking care of yourself. So here's the big thing. And one of my mentors who did all my lab work, and he was a great phlebotomist and biochemist, he says, you know, Americans want the best health care somebody else's money will buy. And it's like, I'm recommending don't wait for that to happen, because you're going to be in trouble. So, okay, so let's go back here. So what are the keys to balancing your hormones? Well, obviously you got to find out what the problems are first, but our body does not tolerate imbalance. So our body's going to try and remedy the problem. So if you have high stress, okay, it's going to say, okay, eat sweets, therefore you make more insulin, therefore the teeter-totter, that metabolic teeter-totter becomes balanced. If you're eating too much sugar, you got high insulin, your body's going to say, okay, let's suppress reproductive hormones so it'll balance the teeter-totter. Okay? Or it's going to say, let's make the stress system work more, and so then you'll start doing, you know, these are the thrill seeker patients, people. You know, they do, you know, stunts that, you know, that are, you know, why do you want to go skydiving? Oh, for the thrill of it. Why do you want to do, you know, whatever it is, for the thrill of it? So they get a cortisol hit. They're a stress junkie, but it could be initiated by they eat too many carbohydrates in their diet, and so their brain is trying to balance that teeter-totter. Okay, so the next thing is your nervous system, your gland, your whole body is going to attempt to balance things under the direction of your brain. And then your brain's going to pick the path of least resistance. What is going to be the quickest way to remedy this situation? It's not always going to be the best way to do it. It's not always going to fix it. Very rarely does it fix it. It's going to be the easiest way to do it. Okay, and then it doesn't fix the problems, but the symptoms may go away for a while. Okay, so here's our metabolic teeter-totter again. On the catabolic side, breaks down tissue. We've got stress hormones, thyroid hormones. On the viewing right, we've got the anabolic hormones, make new tissue stuff. Okay, so we got vitamin D3, insulin, growth hormones, sex hormones. If I could just say something real quick about vitamin D3.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Well, it's been reclassified as a hormone about 20 years ago, and here's the short of the long. Vitamin D3 is the common link between every autoimmune disorder, whether it's Hashimoto's thyroiditis, whether it's you know, rheumatoid arthritis, whether it's lupus, all the multiple sclerosis, all these weird conditions you've heard of. All those patients have a vitamin D3 deficiency. So now, at a conference I was at recently in July, one of the doctors from England said, well, you can get enough vitamin D3 from the sunshine, but here's how you tell. You have to be exposed to the sun for 20 minutes every day. Okay? And how do you know you're getting enough sun exposure? He says the easiest way to do is you got to just stand there and look at your shadow. If your shadow is longer than you are tall, so Roberto, you're what, about 6 foot?
6'2.5".
Okay, that's hard math. Let's just say he's 6 foot. Okay. So when Roberto's standing in the sun, if his shadow is 10 foot long, he's not getting any vitamin D3 manufactured in his body because it's the wrong length of rays from the sun. But if his shadow is only 3 foot, then we know he's getting the right kind of rays from the sun. Well, that's an easy way you can do that. Okay. So 20 minutes for the average person. Then if you have a little darker skin, like I'm from Mediterranean background, I have olive colored skin, it's a little darker complexion, I need to add in 5 to 10% more. If you have Afro-American complexion, you have to add in another 25% more time. So you can get your vitamin D3 from the sun. Now, how many people go outside for 20 minutes almost naked? You can't just have your hands, face, and feet. You got to be like, pretty exposed for most of your body to get the rays of the sun for 20 minutes, and their shadow is shorter than they are.
Yeah,
so
not too many.
That's not going to happen. But the curious thing to me was in this doctor's presentation was he showed all the research that, here's how you can figure it out. Just look at your shadow, and then So what that means is it's got to be around noon here in Kansas City area, right? Because that's when the sun is almost overhead, and the shadow is going to be its shortest length. So that's
a couple more questions about vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now getting back to nutrition, this is why I'm a big proponent, and I know you probably familiar with the paleo ketogenic type of diet, because those are, especially the keto diet, is more of a high-fat diet, and without getting good fat in your system, even if you're taking vitamin D supplements, what happens?
You're not absorbing it.
Exactly. So you're just pissing it out, really. Excuse my expression, but you're peeing it out.
That's all right.
Yeah.
You're with friends. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why do they call it essential fats? Because we can't make this stuff.
That's exactly.
You got to think. Why do they call it essential amino acids? There's 8 of them. Because we can't make. Because we don't make this stuff. So tell me, how many essential carbohydrates are there?
None.
Oh, amazing, huh? It's like, why? It's like, did you ever think of stuff like that? Like, what are you curious about, Roberto? I know you and I are curious about a lot of the same things, but it's like, did you ever think about that one?
Well, it's just the way our government has promoted it with the food pyramid and our European background, the way the country was founded. We love our breads, we love our cereals and starches and everything else. And I'll admit, once in a while I like peach cobbler myself, but hey, you gotta govern and manage your life right.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue. You must have seen my presentation before. So what effect does the SAD, the Standard American Diet, have on your hormones, right? So it's going to do this to your metabolic ketone. It's a high carbohydrate, low protein diet. And it's like, it's going to force you to make insulin. So guess what? Our school system has cafeterias for the kids, and in case the kids don't like this good food, what do we give them? Peanut butter and jam sandwiches. So we give them the wrong kind of fats in peanut butter. We give them pure sugar with jam, and then we give them wheat with gluten in it. Mm-hmm. Excellent, isn't it? It's like, no wonder the kids can't learn properly. Their brain can't think and work properly because of the chemistry's gone wrong. Oh, here's a great segue, Roberto. It's like a concussion will never be fixed unless you fix the brain chemistry first. And guess what 2 of the things are? Yep. There's stress hormones and inflammation hormones, and then carbohydrates.
Glycation.
So excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so now here's what happens with that standard American diet is like you make a lot of insulin, and so then the body's the easiest way to fix this is it's going to say, okay, reproductive hormones, growth hormone, you guys can stop working because I got to balance the whole body here. And so that's when you get symptoms of pre-manhood syndrome, premenstrual syndrome, low sex drive, night sweats. Guys get this stuff too, by the way, infertility, low testosterone. The guys get those symptoms like night sweats, and they get their testicles shrink, their sperm count decreases when they start taking the testosterone drugs. That's why they give them the estrogen blocking drugs. And it's like, are you sure you want to go down that path? So our diet totally produces all that stuff on the teeter-totter. So again, I get back to like, what's your premise? Like, how are you going to look at your hormonal balance of your body, and how are you going to take care of that? So I've got a few things. So if your approach is, okay, I'm worried about low testosterone, if you want to make a note, one of our websites is called istressedout.com. So if you go to istress.com, I wrote an article in there specifically about low testosterone and stress. And we've got a few metabolic teeter-totters in there, so there's a lot more information there on this metabolic teeter-totter and then things you can do at home for your stress system, for reproductive hormones, and some dietary things too. So what happens is that, okay, here's solution number one. Growth hormone will decrease faster than testosterone, right? So as we age, growth hormone does decrease. So do you want to fix the testosterone and give the estrogen blocking drug, or do you want to fix the growth hormone, the higher glandular chain? So here's the curious thing, where there is a convening, and this is way off topic, but I think it kind of fits in here, where the world of quantum physics and quantum mechanics and the world of religion and spirituality are meeting at the same place. And that is, okay, where did we come from and how did we start? So the quantum mechanics guys call it the event horizon, and the spiritual religious people say it's the birth of civilization, and God created everything in 7 days. And so the end result is, you may have heard the acronym above, down, inside out, which is a chiropractic motto. Or you may have heard the spirituality people would say, so above, so below. I don't know if you've heard any of those kinds of relationships, but if you fix growth hormone, which comes from the brain, it will eventually fix all of the lower glandular problems. Whereas if you just give testosterone, because it's a bottom feeder, if you will, hormonally, it's not going to fix growth hormone. It's not going to fix the brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So picture the gears of a Swiss watch. There's all kinds of little gears in there, right? Which gear is the most important one? Well, some people would say the big one. I'd say the little one, because if the little one stops, it can stop everything, right? So when you find the right gear, it will make all the gears work properly. When you find the right hormonal system that's off, it'll fix all of them. So again, the Cartesian theory of, okay, one test, one diagnosis, one drug, one pimp selling it is like, okay, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. Okay, so again, the diet will produce low testosterone. It'll produce premenstrual syndrome. It'll produce, problems at menopause or manopause, or what they call andropause now. Diet will totally control, and we use an identical approach that Roberto recommends, which is the paleo keto style diet, and it works wonderfully. And oh, by the way, when you start doing that and your hormones get balanced, you lose weight, and it's like the stuff melts off your body because your body doesn't have to store those carbohydrates. Okay, I got to pull out of my briefcase here. How's our time doing, Roberto?
We got about 18 minutes left.
Oh, okay, good. I'm going to just grab this anyway because I'm going to need it in a little bit. This is a great story, and it just literally happened today. Okay. Another solution for the low testosterone is decreased thyroid, and a lot of ladies have that. By the way, ladies should have a little bit of testosterone, and men should have a little bit of progesterone. That's the old yin and yang story. So part of this treatment strategy for women with PMS and menopausal symptoms is sometimes they need promotion to produce a little bit of testosterone, and a more likely thing is men with prostate problems, a lot more men respond better to a little bit of progesterone. And it's like you got to have a little bit of each one of those in the opposite sex. So ladies need a little bit of testosterone, males need a little bit of progesterone for their hormonal system to be properly functioning. Right. Okay, so before I go through some recommendations, let me go through this case history, and this was literally today. This is a patient that came to me, and his main complaints were fatigue, trouble losing weight, erectile dysfunction. I went to his medical doctor, he did a couple of tests, and basically he said, okay, we got some major problems. Yes, you've got low testosterone, but you should be sitting down, Roberto. His glucose was 341. Normal is like normal is 80 to 100. His hemoglobin A1C long-term reflection of blood sugar was 11. Normal is under 6.
Wow.
His triglycerides, which should be under 100, was 826.
Good Lord.
His cholesterol, which should be 200 to 220, and that's why that cholesterol myth, that would be a great topic, Roberto. So it should be like 200 to 220 was 411, and then his good cholesterol, which should be like 50 to 60 bare minimum, was at 37. And then there was a whole bunch of other tests that we did. So we put him on a paleo keto diet. Oh, by the way, he did not want to do the testosterone. He did not want to do the insulin because he has 10 family members who went down that route, and if they weren't dead, they were doing the testosterone, they were doing the insulin injections, and not only were their blood tests getting worse, they were having strokes and heart attacks. Now this guy just turned 50. So this is what he's faced with, and he says, I'm not going down that path. And he says, I heard you can help me. So we ran the blood work, and we ran a few more tests, which his primary care doctor did not. So after 90 days of paleo ketogenic diet, we gave him probably 4 target-specific nutrients, 1 to lower cortisol, 1 to lower 6 factors in the inflammatory cascade. We gave him a supplement to help him produce insulin, which has zinc, selenium, and a few Indian herbs in it. And then we gave him a powder that contains arginine, and the purpose of arginine is when it hits your digestive tract, it releases nitric oxide, and nitric oxide will repair the arteries. And oh, by the way, nitric oxide is the main ingredient of Viagra. So after 90 days taking those 4 supplements and that diet, and he was really diligent about it, and so he was coming in for treatment about once a week. Okay, here's what his numbers went to. His glucose went from 3. Now, I got to tell you, his triglycerides have never been under 500. His cholesterol has never been under 400. His glucose has never been under 300 in 20 years that he's been working at this. So his 90 days, glucose went from 341 to 280. That's like a huge change.
Yeah, big.
His triglycerides went from 8. So triglycerides, that's what your body does, is it takes, if you got too much fat, the wrong kind of fat, it's got to put it, you got to put it somewhere. So your body makes this chemical called triglycerides, okay, and then this chemical can then go to your usually liver first, kidney, subcutaneous fat cells, and it puts it places where it's not supposed to be, and then you get fat. So triglycerides went from 826 to 391. That's like bigger than a 50% change. And again, he'd never been under 500. His cholesterol went from 411 to 315. And then, now, the curious fact was his HDL cholesterol, so we had, part of that was we made sure he ate fish at least 3 days a week to get some good fats. His good cholesterol stayed exactly the same. That's the only number of all the tests we did, and we ran about 60 different chemical tests on him. That's the only one that didn't change. And so that's pretty remarkable results. So I suggested that, okay, I think we should just do the same thing again for another 90 days. If we had that dramatic results, that's pretty amazing. And he said, oh, by the way, I've got more energy. He says, my sex life has come back to life. And he says, and I lost 30 pounds without trying to lose weight. He says, the only exercise I've done is walking. And he says, it's like unbelievable how great I feel. So,
hey, could you talk just a little bit about, because I know I've worked with some individuals, some clients of mine who have cholesterol issues. Can you kind of talk about the myth just for a couple of minutes of LDL, HDL?
Yes. Okay, so your body takes cholesterol, and you need cholesterol to make a hormone called 17-ketosteroids. So just picture this. You bring in food from the garage, okay, and then some you're going to put in the fridge, some you're going to put in the pantry, and some you're going to start making dinner right away.
Right.
So what our body does is it takes the cholesterol, it puts some in the pantry for storage, okay, it puts some ready for dinner, and then it takes a third group that says, okay, I need to use this cholesterol for raw material to make other stuff, okay, and that other stuff is a separate pantry called 17-ketosteroids. 17-ketosteroids. So it's a hormone, right? So that hormone, then your brain and your body can take that hormone, and guess what it can make? It can make cortisol, it can make testosterone, it can make estrogen, it can make progesterone, it can make all of the reproductive hormones. So if your cholesterol balance is out of whack, okay, you are never going to be able to make hormones properly. Okay, so now let's go back to, remember originally I said inflammation was known as a cause of heart disease since the early 1900s.
Right.
Let me take a back step if I can for just 30 seconds. What's the difference between something that's true and the truth? Well, something that's true can change. So the minimum daily requirements for vitamin C used to be 60 milligrams per day. Well, what does that mean? It means you got to take 60 milligrams of vitamin C a day so you don't get scurvy. Well, it's got nothing to do with health. It's just you don't have disease. Fast forward 25 years, now the minimum daily requirements of vitamin C is 250 milligrams. And, so is that so you don't get scurvy, or is that so you do better? And the answer is they don't have an answer. So what is true?
Yeah.
What is true is the amount of vitamin C you need per day we're unsure of. What is truth, something that never changes for eternity, is you must take in vitamin C every day. Okay, so see the difference between the two? Okay, so you must take in fat in your diet, okay, but then to process that fat, your body needs what are called cofactors. It needs stuff to break it down and change it into that 17 keto steroids. Okay, so now back in the 1920s, and when I was going through school in the 60s and 70s, normal cholesterol was 20 to 220. Well, how come it's 160 to 180 now? Because if you go,
that's too low.
It's too low, and if you go over 180, guess what? You need a drug to fix it.
Lipitor.
There you go. Okay, so that's why I look at what's called the Anderson index. Okay, so you look at total cholesterol and you divide that by the HDLs, or the good cholesterol. Okay, so that index is reflective of, okay, what risk is your heart at for problems, and you want that index to be under 5. Okay, under 4 would be better. Okay, so total cholesterol divided by HDL, or the good cholesterols. So if you got a cholesterol of 250, okay, so let's go back to my patient. Okay, he had his total cholesterol initially was 411, and HDLs was 37. So that the quick math on that is like it's way over 10, right? It's a lot more than 10, but so that's over 10. So I was like, okay, we need to worry about some heart stuff. Well, now he's come down to 315 over 37, so he's still hovering at 10. Okay, so now we have to work at getting the good fats up. We've got stuff in motion about getting the bad fats, the storage fats away. So that's what I look at is, okay, what's that cholesterol, the HDL ratio, and then, do they have, so here's what really irks me, is patient goes to their primary care doctor, they check their cholesterol, then the HDL don't do nothing else. He says, oh, your cholesterol is at 200, it's too high. So they give them Lipitor, or the drug du jour, to get rid of a cholesterol, okay, and the bottom line is, what happens? Their cholesterol is 160, and so now they start having other problems. So what does the primary care doctor say? Well, you should stay on the cholesterol-lowering drug because we got to keep it that way. Well, what they've done is they've annihilated their fat metabolism, and they are now becoming incapable of making life-sustaining hormones like cortisol, like estrogen, like progesterone, like testosterone, all those things that are necessary.
Exactly.
And so it's like, okay, are you willing to risk going down that route? And the answer is, so now, you know what the latest craze is? I don't know if you heard about this. It's putting butter in your coffee.
Yeah, bulletproof coffee.
Bulletproof coffee, yeah. Put butter in your coffee.
Yep.
Okay, and it's like, I've always said that. It's like 30 years ago I was saying, like, don't eat margarine. It has the same chemical formula and consistency as axle grease. Yeah, it's plastic. Okay, you need to eat butter. You need to eat good fats. And I can't tell you how many times I was absconded in, spoken hate words and all that kind of fun stuff. But it's like, okay, the truth is our body needs fats, and you got to eat the right kind of fats, right? So there's plant source fats and there's animal source fats. Okay, and you need both. So you vegetarians out there, you lacto-vegetarians, it's like they're some of the sickest people I've seen. Okay, you need to have plant source fats. So you can have black currant seed oil, you can have avocados, which is one of my favorites. Okay. Then on the animal side, you need to have deep sea whitefish, but two of the biggest sources or most plentiful sources are sardines and anchovies. And then, of course, one of the best nutrient-dense foods of all time is salmon, because you get great protein source and great fat source, but it also happens to be very expensive. And so you want to buy pink salmon, wild salmon, or Pacific Coast salmon. Don't buy Atlantic salmon, Norwegian salmon. They're all farm raised, and there's problems with those fish. So it should say wild or pink or Alaskan salmon.
That's good information.
And here's a great book, Roberto, which will tell you the whole history of the fat metabolism fast food industry. It's called Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill. Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill, and the author's name is Udo, U-D-O, Erasmus, U-R-A-S-A-M-E-U-S, Udo Erasmus.
He also has food supplements out there.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does.
Yeah, I've seen him.
And, one of the things that we started our own nutrition company to make products for doctors, and Roberto's going to carry some of these products. We decided to not go into the fat manufacturing business for two reasons. Number one, quality control is extremely expensive, and so are raw materials. But from a business model standpoint, a lot of people know about taking good fats. Even now, KU Med Center says, the cardiology department says you should take good fats. 20 years ago, they weren't saying any such thing, but now they can make $1 on the side. They're saying, oh, you need to take good fats, and oh, by the way, we got a great product. We made it over here. But 20 years ago, it was, blasphemy to even suggest that. Amazing, isn't it? So that's why we decided to not go into that. So you need to get a good quality essential fat product. Ideally, it should have some omega-3s and some omega-6s, so some of the plant source fats and some of the animal source fats. So there are lots of great products out there, and hopefully, I'm not familiar with Udo's products. I know he had them, and we have a couple of different manufacturers we deal with, and we've been pleased with the results we get from them. So they've worked really well. Okay, so now if we can, Roberto, I know time's getting short here, so you got to take some inventory of your stress system and your inflammation system and all your hormones and determine things that need to be done. And so you got to have a plan of impact, not just a plan of implementation. You got to what things are going to impact my hormonal system the best, not the most, the best. What things are going to impact how I feel? What things are going to impact how I can go forward for the rest of my life? Okay, so that's a little bit different than a plan of attack. I want a plan of impact. Okay, and we'll come back to that in just a second. So now, what are you willing to change or commit to? So some people they give lip service to change, and so you can change your fat metabolism with exercise. And I know Roberto has done this. So you have to use. I say a patient, and I said to this patient, I said, we can work in exercise. Are you willing to work out an hour a day in a target heart range, 6 days a week? You can't take 2 days off in a row for 6 months, and then we'll recheck your fat metabolism profile and see if we've impacted that. He says, hell, I ain't doing that. I said, well, then we got to do it another way. At least he was up front and said, I'm not doing that. So after you've figured out all the things that you need to have done and then should do and how they're going to impact you, then, okay, what are you willing to change? So here's a big one, and I really like this one now. With inflammation in your body, it's one of the big things, right?
Right.
So you need to stop having inflammatory thoughts, and this is rampant this kind of year. So for all you Mizzou fans out there, what do you hate? Seriously, hold on, Roberto, hold on. What has anybody at KU done to you that you hate them so passionately?
Yeah.
And the same as Kate. It's like that's just poison in your brain. Okay, let's go out. Let's have a competition. Let's work hard, but let's shake hands after. That's why one of the coolest things is rugby. They beat the snot out of each other for 60 minutes. Then the winners form two lines and they clap as the losers go through. Then the losers form two lines and they clap and go through. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the winners buy the beer and they all go back to the pub and they drink together. because that's the proper humane thing to do. So now, I got to get this in because I'm passionate about this. It's like, okay, I don't want to hear any excuses from anybody I know in my circle of life in the world, and anybody that's on this line, and anybody that Roberto knows. You need to watch some of these performances in the Paralympics. Did you hear what happened yesterday, Roberto? A kid ran a sub 4-minute mile.
I didn't hear about that. No.
A kid that is partially paralyzed. In the men's 5,000, they ran a 5,000 meter race. They're totally blind. They're running with a guide. They ran 5,000 meters with someone attached to them like a rubber band, and telling them, go left, go right if you want to pass the guy. And the guide always has to be behind. They ran it in under 15 minutes. So don't give me this crap that you can't go out and exercise and do something.
Yep.
My daughter sent me a text today. She says, Dad, you got to watch the soccer. I said, okay. She says, it's kind of weird. It's indoor. She says, but the athletes are blind. I said, they're playing soccer and they're blind? She says, yeah. The crowd is totally quiet. Nobody makes a noise. The coach can tell the players what to do, and then 3 players can talk. And she says, it's unbelievable. And they're playing soccer, and they're totally blind. And the crowd is, you can hear a pin drop into place, and they're all mesmerized by these athletes. So don't tell me that, you know, the suffering that we all have in our life, somebody else has got it worse, that you cannot overcome it. But it's like, okay, what are you willing to change? What are you willing to commit to? And it's like, you know, you can do better. We can all do better. So thank you for letting me rant on that one. But check out some of the Paralympics is still on for the rest of this week. So you got to check out some of these performances. It's like, you know, I don't want to hear you can't do something. You know?
Hey, Evan, just finish up here by, you know, giving out your website again and where you're located over there in Kansas, in case some of these people, there's about 9 people we had online here listening, so in case they want to check you out and come to your place.
Okay, let me just fast forward here. Okay, I'll just throw up that last slide. Okay, so there's our clinic number. We're at 435 in Metcalf, so we have 2 websites, mladenoffclinic.com and then iStressedOut. So sorry, that should be iStressedOut.com, not 2 coms. See if I can fix that real quick here. I guess I can't. Okay, there we go.
I'm going to make
I have this new.
I'm going to make you the presenter again. I'm sorry. I took you out
for
a second.
Well, that's all right. I fixed it real quick. So. Okay, did that fix it? I'm back here.
Yep.
Okay, so there we go. Clinic number is 913-491-1071, and then the clinic website is mladenoffclinic.com, and then iStressedOut.com. So if you want that testosterone article, the low testosterone article, it's on the iStressedOut.com. Just go to the article section. We've got a couple of self-stress tests you can do there right on the computer. One is we call our 10-second stress test that you can tell how your stress system is doing, like right now.
Okay.
So they're pretty cool. So Roberto, here's the bottom line for me, and that is, and for your listeners. Number one is like, okay, what do you see for yourself and your family? And you have to gather some resources and some people around you that you can trust, that can help guide you and can help you with challenges you have in life. Okay? And then you need to share that information, because if you don't start taking control of yourself and you're waiting for somebody else to do it, it's like it's not good. I promise you, it's not good.
Okay.
So,
well, Evan, we want to thank you for being a presenter, and we'll have you back for some more. I could talk about this stuff all night, man, because I'm a nerd about this kind of stuff, but unfortunately I don't think people stay with us all night. So
well, that's all right. That's right. You and I can get together, and we'll have some coffee and butter, and we'll have a great conversation. Yeah. So that'll be fun too, Roberto.
Well, everybody, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight, and give a big shout out to Evan. Check him out over there in Overland Park, Kansas. He's got a great clinic. I've been there several times to take members of my family there at times, and he's worked on my kids, and so he does a great job. Don't forget, you can also check out the podcast. Evan, I'll send you a link to that.
Thank you.
By going to my YouTube page. Just go to Roberto Parker or Innovative Sports Training on YouTube. Now remember, we do private sessions, evaluations, and nutritional consultations, so check us out. Guys, thank you for attending, and have a great evening. God bless. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Roberto.
Bye-bye.